Hello, welcome everyone on Facebook and YouTube, and of course our regular listeners on Zoom. So today's discussion, as our weekly Wednesdays dictate, is getting better at being you. And today we're going to be working on a topic. Let me just let in two people over here. Hi, those who just joined us. Today we're going to work on a topic which is almost counterintuitive because, I'm a rabbi, a counselor, discussing, lift people up, inspiring, and being positive is always seen as an amazing, important thing. And I'll be the first one, those who know me at all, to say being positive, having a good attitude about life's problems and challenges is an amazing and important thing. What we're going to talk about today is when that positive attitude just goes too far. When people don't put boundaries on their positivity, and it's called, wasn't my invention, toxic positivity, and how toxic positivity may actually be ruining your life. So what precisely is it? How does it manifest itself? And what can we do about it? That's today's discussion. Well, first of all, what is it? What am I even talking about? So toxic positivity isn't being positive at all. Actually, it's the opposite. It's avoiding problems. It's pretending everything is okay when actually it isn't. And pretending is not only pretending to other people that everything's okay, it's also pretending to yourself that it's all good. And look on the bright side, and everything's going to be great when actually it's not good. And if you have that attitude, you're not going to try to find ways to improve your life situations. And when I do counseling and talk to people, I find one partner is like a realist many times and describing a challenge. And the other person is, oh, it's going to be great. Don't worry about it. Let's just keep going. Everything's going to fix itself. Time will tell. And sometimes it will, and then sometimes it doesn't. And people remain in very dysfunctional relationships for years without really facing up to their true feelings. So that's pretty much what it is. And this was inspired by a story I heard many years ago from one of my great mentors and gurus who sadly died this past year, Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky. And he tells the following true story that happened to him. I may have mentioned it before. If I did, I apologize if you have to listen to it a second time. Rabbi Twersky had a drug rehab place. And there was actually a nunnery about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, a convent. And the head of the convent was a priest who wanted the nuns to get psychiatric help from a religious individual, a God believer. And he happened to find and hear this Jewish doctor, Rabbi Abraham Twersky, who ran a psychiatric rehab practice. And one of the nuns was dealing with a drinking problem. And so he called up and said, can I send this woman to you to meet with you? And he said, absolutely. So they set up a time and a place where they could meet. In his office, this is before cell phones were, available. And Dr. Twersky forgot, or he put down the date of their meeting on the wrong page. We used to have actual written calendars in the old days where you put down your appointments, and he put on the wrong page. And so he thought that his day was clear, but actually he had this nun who was coming to see him for this problem. And he forgot about it, and he spent the entire day off somewhere doing what he was doing, visiting family, friends, whatever it was, and completely forgot about this woman. And this woman schlepped in an hour and a half, 2 hours on the bus. She gets to his office. She sits there or outside for like an hour or two, nothing from him whatsoever. Leaves to go home, another hour and a half, 2 hours. Pretty much her entire day was taken up, rather than meeting with the psychiatrist, by just traveling and waiting and then going home. Dr. Twersky came back. he went through his appointments and he realized that he put down the appointment on the wrong day, whatever it was, and he felt terrible about it. So he called the nunnery and said, please tell the nun that I'll be here. Let's rebook for Wednesday, whatever it is, and I'll see you then. And he was obviously careful to be in his office when she arrived, and she walks through the door and she sits down and he says, oh my goodness, I am so sorry about what I did for you. And she was like, no, you don't need to apologize. You don't need to apologize. You made a mistake. He's like, yeah, I feel terrible though. You spent the entire day schlepping over here, I don't know if you use that language, and waiting for me and schlepping back, and it was totally my fault. I didn't, and I'm going to, obviously I'll pay for this. No, you don't need to pay for anything. It's okay. It's all good. And he's like, but it's not all good. I stood you up. And she's like, just forget, I've forgotten about it. And he said, this is a problem. Your positivity is so extreme that you're not even able to be upset with me for a moment. You see, a normal functioning relationship involves, you know what? You stood me up. I spent many hours traveling here, waiting, and getting back. I'm very upset. I would say, sorry for doing that. And what you should be is like, you know what? I forgive you, but please be careful not to do that again. That's a normal relationship. People say things, or do things they shouldn't, apologize, accept apology. That's a healthy series of emotions when it comes to dealing with people. But some people don't allow that to happen. They can't seem to handle the discomfort that comes with, you made a mistake, don't do that. Don't talk to me that way. I'd appreciate if you didn't act towards me that way, rather than, oh, it's all good, everything's going to be great. That's toxic. It doesn't allow a normal, healthy flow of emotions. And what may be surprising to you, and I'm going to read this for you in case you don't believe me, is there is actually a Rambam, which means it's a halacha. Maimonides brings down in the laws of Deot, the laws of ideas and behaviors. And let's read the words of the Rambam together, because seemingly the Rambam would be like, hey, if someone does something bad to you, get over it, suck it up, give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's just move on. And there are times when that's appropriate, but many times it's not. Listen to this unbelievable Rambam, this Maimonides, and how he relates to people who act towards you in certain ways. Bear with me. And here's the Rambam. Says the Rambam, it is a mitzvah that when one person wrongs you or another person, don't remain silent and keep that anger and hatred inside your heart. This is actually what Avshalom did to Amnon, Avshalom did, son of King David. He was someone who had a problem with someone called Amnon, and he didn't say anything good to him, and didn't say anything bad to him. He just let it just fester and move on. Everything's fine. Let's just move on without describing his feelings. Rather, a person is commanded to make the matter known and say to them, why did you do this to me? Why did you act towards me this way regarding this matter? Lama asita li kach v'kach. Don't talk to me that way. I'm not going to be just washing over your actions or words. Don't respond to me that way. Okay. And actually comes from a mitzvah in the Torah. So the Rambam even wants to push it further and say, this is a mitzvah of the Torah, which is, hochia tochia et amitecha. You shall surely rebuke your fellow man or woman, which means you don't just like tell people off. But if you have a feeling and someone has upset you or irritated you and they've acted a certain way, you just being like, oh, it's all good, is not the way to be. You have to explicitly tell them what they've done and ask them not to do it again. And if they apologize, he says, if afterwards the person who committed the wrong asks his colleague to forgive him, you should do so. Don't be cruel when forgiving. Okay? Allow a person to apologize, tell them what they did wrong, explain, because if you don't tell them, they're not going to understand. And in the process, you'll be able to begin a healing aspect to life. You know, people are uncomfortable with this. And I myself am very uncomfortable with this. I'm a good friend of mine, actually a student's mother passed away recently, and I went to the Levaya, to the Hesped, the eulogy. It's actually a mitzvah to give a eulogy, and for the person who's eulogizing whoever's passed away, to make the people present upset and cry. It's actually a mitzvah. They should be moved by this eulogy. And then, of course, after that, we have Shiva, the 7 days when a person sits in their home, doesn't leave, walks around without shoes on, just really doesn't shave, doesn't haircut, just doesn't listen to music, just fully absorbs themselves into what's missing in their life. There's a fascinating halakha, which most people are not aware of when it comes, and it fits so well into our discussion. Listen to this amazing law. Listen to the creativity and the therapeutic quality that the rabbis added to people who are in mourning, especially, exclusively, the first week of mourning when the feelings are still very, very raw. The natural thing that people want to do, me included, before I even knew this, was when you see someone mourning, you want to go in, see them sitting down, and cheer them up. It's okay. They had an amazing life. And it's all going to be good. Don't worry. Well, at least you have another parent. At least you got to spend time with your parents. At least you got... You know you're not allowed to do that. When you visit a mourner, you're actually not allowed to even talk unless you've been spoken to. If the mourner speaks to you, you may respond. Otherwise, just sit there and be quiet. Don't try to make the mood positive. That's not what you're there for. Your job is to be menachem avel, to comfort the mourner. You do that with your presence, and if the mourner wants to speak with you and tell you about the life of whoever they're mourning for, that's up to them. If they want to sit there and be quiet, that's also okay. That's actually one of the reasons we eat certain foods. And one of the foods we eat are eggs in the house of mourning, or lentils, traditionally as well. These are foods with no openings. They're completely sealed to say that the mourner's mouths and yours too should be sealed and shut. Your job isn't there, oh, it's going to be great, don't worry. Well, they had a good life. Who are you? Who are you to try to cheer people up with your positivity when this person actually is hurting? And rather listening to your positivity of everything's going to be great, let them sit, be upset, and mourn. It's very therapeutic. Let them just get through it. And if at some point they want to be cheered up, they'll make that clear to you, to reminisce over stories from the past or whatever. But sometimes positivity becomes downright toxic and is not appropriate. So let's go through some of the clarifying traits of toxic positivity. And again, I see this so often. And I want to stop people and be like, why do you say that? What are you really feeling right now? When you tell me this story, when you tell me this terrible story and you laugh about it, it's not so funny. It's actually terrible. What actually went on? So some people will brush off problems rather than facing them. Rather than facing their problems, they brush them off. Well, I hear this one a lot from people. A lot. Well, I have a roof over my head, and I have food to eat, and I have clothes. I don't need anything else. Actually, you do. You need a lot more than that. I understand those are the basic things that we're grateful for them, but you need a lot more than that in order to lead, today, 2021, a functioning, healthy life. Right? You may want to get married, have kids, have healthy children, healthy family. You need to make a living. There's certain things we need. We don't just need the bare necessities in order to survive. Survival takes a lot more than just physical things. It also takes emotional well-being, psychological well-being. And now the world is catching up with us, realizing that, there's many people out there with a lot of wonderful physical things. But now, with the help of social media, we get to look under the trunk, look under the bonnet, and we realize, wow, things are not, under the hood, things are not the way they should be. And there's a lot of pain and hurt over here that never got a chance to come out. And people will sit with this stuff for months and years and years. Okay? Another thing I found among people who have this toxic positivity thing is they feel guilty about being sad, angry, and disappointed. It's okay to feel sad, angry, or disappointed. It's totally legitimate. Not every time you feel sad do you need to be cheered up right away. Now, if that sadness carries on for months or weeks, then there's a problem and you need to tap into it. But God made us with a variety of feelings, of emotions, and they're there for a reason, and they're healthy. And if someone says to you, how are you doing? You know, I have a friend of mine who actually, one of my advisors, who has been a rehabilitated alcoholic. When you go up to him and say, hey, how you doing? He doesn't just say, I'm fine. Never. He's like, I'm pleased you asked, and I'm going to tell you. He's just gone to that. And someone's like, oh God, here we go again. I knew I shouldn't have asked him. But he's going to reveal that to you and explain it to you. You know, one of the things that kind of existed, I think, in the previous generation, or maybe in our generation, is that, you know, kids cry over certain things, get upset, and we say, oh, don't cry. Or even worse, right? Crying's for babies. Yeah, or we'll say that to them. I was told that many times by various people, you know, oh, don't be stupid, what are you crying for? When I see my kids crying, I'm like, cry. You're upset, I hear. Let it out. Nothing wrong with that. It's a sign of strength, not of weakness. Let it out. You're upset, I hear. Give people the chance to tell you how upset, sad, or disappointed they are in you, life, or anything else. And sometimes, and I do this a lot, I'm like, I hear. And people think, well, if I hear, then I should be able to solve all their problems. And the answer is no. No, you're not God, right? You're just a friend, and they've come to you. Let them take it out of the system. Your job isn't to fix everyone and to find some positive thing, right? To let it all just come out. People hide their true feelings behind feel-good quotes, right? That seem more socially acceptable. We see this nowadays, right? People are always happy. Be grateful for what you have. Look on the bright side, you know? It's okay to not feel okay. That's fine, you know? And this kind of like Instagram world and Facebook world where everything is sanitized and photoshopped and everyone looks happy all the time. And I made that mistake myself, you know? I'll catch up with people. I actually did this morning. Someone I'm trying to set up right now, and I called him up and I said, how you doing over here? I said, wow, I saw you posted this and that. And he's like, yeah, I'm actually really, really miserable right now, you know? So I'm like, what's going on? But you look at this guy's social media, he looks pretty happy to me, right? But it's not good. And everyone looks happy for the most part. And everyone's smiling. And I don't know if you want to look good all the time. I don't know if you want to be happy all the time. I don't read anywhere in any of my readings in Jewish or secular knowledge that being happy all the time or looking good all the time is very helpful to your personal self-development, okay? This like positive vibes only nonsense. It's terrible. How do we get it would be a okay way to lead our lives, right? Hiding how you feel. I mean, you would never do that with a physical... Like if someone walked in, you know, with an arrow in their arm, and like, what's that? Oh, that's nothing. Yeah, I know some kids were playing, I got shot in the arm. It's all good, right? Don't worry. I may have it removed, or maybe I won't. I'll just buy baggy clothing. This person's crazy. They're completely meshuggah, right? You would never, ever do that. Well, it's the same when it comes to emotional arrows too that have been stabbed into us as well, you know? And many times we need to kind of like offload it in a healthy and mature way. So it's not just yourself. I found that people will minimize other people's feelings because they make you uncomfortable. You know, it's uncomfortable to see people suffering, see people irritated and upset and all the rest of it. I get it. It's just not very, very pleasant, not very, very nice, you know? Or people shame other people when they don't have a positive attitude, right? Terrible thing to do, right? Now, there are some people who can never be positive. No matter how happy the occasion is, they'll always be a Debbie Downer and always upset and always irritated. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about people who have legitimate things they're upset about and will kind of like give this persona, whether on social media or their own lives, where they're just not willing to face up to it. And the other will shame other people when they don't have positive attitude. Wow, I thought you were a believer in God. Don't you have faith in God? It's like, I do, and right now my faith in God is telling me I need to be upset. Right? That's my faith in God. And sometimes people get upset with God. That's also okay. And sometimes people argue with God. I mean, Abraham did. Moshe Rabbeinu pleaded with God many times. He didn't accept everything. Right? We know Moshe Rabbeinu prayed over 500 times for one thing, to be allowed into the land of Israel. Right? He wanted to get in. He was upset, and he let God know about it. Right? And that's okay. That's totally okay. Trying to be stoic or get over, right, these painful emotions is not conducive to a healthy life. Okay? So I made a list of certain quotes I hear from people who have this, toxic positivity, right? And things like, oh, you'll get over it, Don't be so negative. Always look on the bright side, right? Failure is not an option. I hear that as well. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you fail, I've failed many times. It is an option. It may not be the best option right now. It may not feel good. Maybe the right option. Think happy thoughts. Like, what am I? Am I like on a drug or something? What is this like? I'm a cocaine dealer? No one can constantly think happy thoughts. We all have this side of us, and this is totally okay, this inner dialogue. People say things, do things, and you've got to talk straight to them and say that's not okay. It could be worse. Yes, it could be worse, but it's pretty bad right now. What's better than that selection of toxic positive comments? It's better to say, it's hard, but I believe in you. I know you're going through absolute hell right now, but I'm with you and you can do this, right? Or you can say, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay. It's okay to be disappointed. I understand you're upset with me. I hear. It is what it is, okay? And definitely okay to cry, right? And it's difficult to see the good now, but maybe at some point in the future, you'll see why these are so healthy. The best thing you can say is, I'm here for you, right? How can I help? And most of the time, you can't help. Even therapists and psychiatrists, I was with a couple last night till 10:30 in my house who are pouring out their hearts to me and hearing it. And my initial reaction is, let me say something or do something to fix all their problems, just to help them. And the answer is, what I was actually doing at that time, at that moment, was just hearing it, validating it and trying to give them a little bit of clarity, right? So how are we exactly meant to be dealing with this kind of stuff? What are we meant to be doing? When people surround us like this, okay? Well, you have to avoid basically stuffing your emotions is the simplest way. You have to acknowledge how you feel, right? Feel your emotions, good or bad, and just kind of sit with them, And at some point, you can try to reimagine them and recreate them to actually see the good that's in them. But if a person is suffering right now, just like you would say to a person with a broken leg, oh, you'll be fine. Yeah, but I'm hurting right now. I'll take a little bit of help if you can give it to me. I mean, you're not a doctor, you can't heal it, but at least we give you something. Maybe write to the doctor, right? Listen and validate, even when it's different than how you feel. Many times I've listened to people and I would never do this, to shake them. Like, do you even know what you're doing to your friendship, your marriage, yourself, your health? But it doesn't work that way. People have to come to their own conclusions, right? You can't tell people what to do. And remember, it's okay not to be okay. Especially this past year. I mean, on social media with all the postings of people like doing creative things in their homes, most of us just sat around our houses miserable for a lot of time, right? It's called being realistic and being real, authentic to yourself and to other people, right? During times of emotional distress, I've got a quote over here, don't engage in brand new tasks you think will make you feel better. Sometimes, right, sit with what you have and think about it. right? Recognize that some people are selling you toxic, positive messages, right, on social media, which sometimes we need just to snap out. But you can't impose that on other people. You can present it and then let them take it for themselves. And I like to say that's why in Judaism, we are very into light, right? Even the word Torah is related to the word Orah, light. And the lights we use are always a flame, right? On Shabbat, we light a flame. Jewish holidays, we light a flame. Even a yard site, on the Shana of the death of a loved one, we light a candle, which is a flame. I've always wondered why we do that. You know, even on Hanukkah, we light little flames in the window. Why not make a bonfire? If you want to spread the light, shine it out there. Like, use a torch. Make a big fire for everyone to see the light. And the answer is because that's not the way it's meant to be. I put a little light out, a little flame. If you want it, it's there for you. And if you don't, that's your decision as well. I'm not going to impose my positive moments and feelings right now on you. I have a little bit of light. If you want it, it's here for you. If you don't, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you need to be upset and sit and mope. I mean, you know, I get people calling me up saying, I just broke up a relationship. I'm so upset. So my initial reaction is, don't worry, it's going to be great. You'll find someone. I'm like, take a couple of weeks off. You know, just don't date anyone. Don't just sit, mourn, cry a little bit, mascara running, snot bubble, whatever you need to do. Just kind of like sit with it. And then, but if it goes on too long, okay, fine. Say 2 to 3 weeks, right? A month, maybe 6 weeks. At some point, maybe there's some real damage that needs to be figured out. But it's okay to sit and just kind of like mourn in yourself. And be wary of social media. You know, you have to remind yourself, this is not who they are. This is not how they look. This is not how they act. This is not their life. This is just an image, maybe a video of a small snapshot that they have produced, that they've allowed to exist in the outside world. That's not the real them. And it's worth realizing that and downloading it. Okay, that's today's discussion. And that's about 30 minutes. Thank you for joining, everyone. Wish you all a successful and wonderful day. And you can always be in touch. We will, God willing, be available next week for more discussions. And I can't remember next week's topic, but it's going to be a good one. I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great and successful day.